in professional, but actually he's also dabbled in collegiate as well. Again, a background that you and I have had a lot of work in and know a lot about. And Nben has had his better days and his worst days, unfortunately. A player who's hoping to have a good day here, like we said, after having the roughest first day of heats, has got to be Mr. Savage. A favorite going into this one, but if he gets eliminated early here in game number 1, he might have to rethink his strategy. Quick drain of his shield's going to have him hold off for a second, and he's going to have to retreat.
He is. Listen, you took a little bit too much of an open spot trying to take those shots, and unfortunately paid the price. And that's just how it goes sometimes here for Savage. Unfortunately, though, it does look like somebody's going to be pushing up. Savage losing a ton of HP here. Now the other player does go back on the back foot. This is interesting. Twice now we've seen Savage get absolutely tagged up, and the player just disengages, doesn't full commit to it. And honestly, again, that speaks to the confidence level of players coming into game 1, because the nerves are high here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You make one wrong mistake, and it's going to throw your entire mental into a tizzy, and that's not something you want to do. Like we said, keep your head on your shoulders, keep your feet planted to the ground, and play very carefully early on. Mr. Savage trying to do exactly that. Recognizes he's getting pushed, so he's going to back off for a second. Unfortunately, a couple of our frontrunners not able to do that, though. I think one of the people that we just saw go down on the feed in the top left that we have to mention, Assassin. One of the most impressive performances we've ever seen yesterday in heats, finishing first, second in his first 4 games and averaging 6 eliminations per game. The fact that he's out within our within our first 30 in this first game does not bode well for him in comparison to his performance yesterday.
It does not, but again, the single lobby format, when you're in here with just some of the best players in the world, it becomes a lot more challenging to do those same things you do in heats. And talking about challenges, Mr. Savage meets it and immediately gets the elimination there. And unfortunately, going to send him back to the lobby. But great for Savage. This is a good start, and this is a good mental motivator, too. You saw him.
This is what we're talking about. You try and get confident for even 1 second. If you are not careful, someone is taking a shot at you out of nowhere.
Ooh. And there we see it, folks. Tons of tags coming through onto Seti. Seti holding it down, though, does end up creating a nice separation between him and some of these other players. Despite the pressure still coming in, it should be enough for Seti to heal up for a bit, but no, a player gets in the box, and Seti is down early in game 1.
Seti out before the top 50. Okay, well, in comparison to what he was doing before, hey, you guys remember the stats that we were showing earlier in the day? Average placement, tops expectations, no, top 15. I can make this. I'm gonna do well, and if he exceeds the top 15, awesome. That's just a sort of cherry on top, and that's kind of what you have to be careful here of. Is again, we see that in Seti. He's comfortable. He's fine. He's in a box, and he's just kind of trying to, retreat, not necessarily get into fights. Somebody charges your box though with that confidence that we're talking about from Pam and Fatch. Yeah, that's all of a sudden when you're running into problems. Right here for Cammy though, this is another player that we do have to watch. And again, we talked about this in heats. Not the most impressive performance, but now that we're here in the finals, maybe this is where they step up.
And this could be a totally different shift, right? Seti coming out on top of his heat, and then Cammy just barely qualifying. Could we see that switch up? Now, will Cammy be the one finding success here for the Become Legends duo? That's the question we're going to see here as a player now pushing into his box. Does it create this extra separation? This is super important here. When you're getting pressured by another player, your best bet, build out to the side.
Yep.
And that's what we see there immediately from Cammy. The more separation you can create between you and your opponent, the better off you are going to be to control that fight.
Oh my gosh, I watched that yesterday during heat number 4. Jeff was trying to qualify while we had, I believe it was Max God who was playing up against him. I don't think they qualified for this finals, but 5 minutes. I'm not even kidding. 5 minutes in a single hallway that they had built out. And the only reason it lasted that long is what you're talking about, creating that separation between the two players. Neither one of them wanted to push up and engage because they know they go down in that final game of the heat, they can kiss the finals goodbye. And that's kind of what we're seeing at this point here, is that a lot of these guys are recognizing, if I don't start off strong, I'm going to run into some issues. So I'm going to try and disengage and get into a more comfortable position for my fight. Aegir is here, good example of that. He's not pushing too far. He's got a full box between him and his opponent, and as soon as his opponent disengages, so does he. He is not too eager to take these fights because he knows it's a huge risk this early on into the competition.
It is, but on the other side of him, I don't know if you saw that, it was Poppy Blast. This is by far one of the most aggressive players we watched in the heats. He was non-stop pushing into boxes, getting involved, and he found success doing that. So it looks like he's not planning on slowing down at all as we see him try to push into Aegir's box. Now, though, Aegir's on the flip side, going straight into the box, does almost connect some shots, but unfortunately it does look like the player has escaped, and Cammy has gone down early. Cammy is down to Jamper, but so many other players still up in this. Source getting an elimination, Npen getting an elimination, Milk's still in it as Agers now just builds to the head of zone.
And this is what makes solo so different, is that it is a different ball game. Again, when you look at Cammy and Seti, they win in a duos environment, and yes, they've won in solos environments before, but they might be a little bit adjusted, or might be needing a little bit of an adjustment period in between. All they get is a week, and now that they're here in the solos environment, they gotta get prepared, because a lot of these dudes are hungry to prove themselves. We talked about Ritual, the player who ended up winning Dreamhack Dallas. He's here again. He's already showing up in the feed, finding himself a couple of eliminations here or there, and well, I don't think that he's quite done yet. A lot of these guys, like I said, they want to prove themselves. They finally got the stage to do so, so what can they do now that they're here? Pump finds himself with 2 eliminations already. Feels like we have to talk about Pump. One of those players that on his best days, incredible. On his worst days, he's a little bit shaky, and right now, I don't actually think he's necessarily in the best position. 8 total builds left. He might have a decent inventory on him, but he's got to be careful. He gets pushed into a box, he's probably not winning that fight.
Yeah, unfortunately, just now using his final build in his inventory, he's, though, going to take some shots there towards Poppy Blast and takes out a player in the sky. A quick elimination onto Glace and stays in this game, getting the refresh he so desperately needed, but immediately running into a player.
And that's the big issue here, is that as soon as Pump does think he's got a little bit of safety, somebody's going to recognize that weakness. When you're diving for materials, when you're diving for anything to refresh your inventory, shows a little bit of weakness to other players. They can tell you're a little bit too eager, a little bit too aggressive, and they might just be able to sniff that weakness out and use it to their advantage. Player who's got no weakness right now, hide and seek. This is the high ground you and I were talking about. It's been so influential throughout all of our competitions that we've seen in heats. Why wouldn't it do the same thing in finals?
You're exactly right, and with 61 builds, he could be able to hold it here for just a little bit longer, but remember, there are players in this lobby that are going to challenge height. One of those players being Queasy, and Queasy has not gone down yet, so if he sees an opening when it comes to high ground, he's going to take it. But Vert still in this game here, getting an elimination on the Trashy as hide and seek continues to reign supreme from above.
Oh, and I love to see that name up in the top left as well. Threats getting involved in the action, and oh, okay, well, immediately gets eliminated as well. Listen, Caster Curse had to show itself at some point here on the day, but Threats is an interesting story, as he didn't really show up in heats, but he might just show up in the finals. Hide and seek showing up in the finals, finds 2 eliminations on the high ground within our top 10.
Yeah, this is a quick start for them. Bacon just going down as well, so you have Vert, Jelly, Queasy, Bolts, and hide and seek still in this game, and Queasy unfortunately going to go down. It does look like Jelly is going to go down as well, so now it is a 1v1v1. Hide and seek on top, Vert down low. Who's going to win it?
Oh, I gotta imagine it's hide and seek here, but he's dropping down low and taking some damage while doing so. It's a bold call, especially considering the level of players around him, but one shotgun shot might just change the outcome. Vert goes down, and we're down to a 1v1, possibly 1v none, as hide and seek, whether it's high ground or low ground, he can still get the VR.
What's crazy to me, though, is seeing Trashy's name up there with 8 eliminations.
Wow.
And I see a few other players with some high elims as well.